Let's get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming here. This was, I know, one of the sessions that was not listed, and I'm glad you found your way. They told me they'll have enough advertisement about this talk after the keynote so people know where to find us and show up. So thank you for your interest in mobility. And I know last year it was interesting. There was another conference that happens, the Mobile and Embedded Developers Conference, MEDC. Oh, we have the wrong thing here. And we were having this event around the same time as MIX was, and then suddenly a lot of people showed up at my booth, said, tell us more about Silverlight for mobile. And at that time, I remember we had shown a very early preview of the Major League Baseball application last year at MIX. And I didn't have much to talk about at that time, but I'm really happy to say that the wait is finally over, and we have officially announced Silverlight for the mobile devices. And I think if you were at the keynote, you would have seen some exciting demos that we had made as well.
So seem to be having a projector problem.
So can somebody look at the projector? That one, it's running from your machine. So. You only have half the stuff. Let's call it CTP1 at this point then. So while they fix that, we'll not waste time. We'll just use this time and do the introductions. Who wants to start first? Okay, that'll take a long time. Let it be just two of us. You can meet with us later in the day. My name is Amit Chopra, and I work for a group called the Mobile Developers Group. Some of you may also know us as the Visual Studio for Devices team, the VSD team, popularly known as in the developer division. Our responsibility is to bring the end-to-end development experience to Visual Studio developers, right from the managed IDE to things like the compilers, debuggers, emulators, unit testing for device applications, and most recently, we've added the charter of bringing Silverlight to mobile devices as well. And we can't see David right now.
Well, it would help
both ways,
if I
actually.
stood up a little bit. But hi, I'm David Klein. If any of you have gone to the Mobile and Embedded Developer Conference over the last 3 years, you might have met me before. I'm a software development engineer and test on the .NET Compact Framework team, and I really wish you could have seen a picture of my cute cat. I just figured, bring a little of myself here, which is my fluffy, white, blue-eyed cat. There she is. She's my favorite furry friend right now, so please indulge me in showing her off. I started on the .NET Compact Framework team 7.5 years ago with version 1, and all we really had was Windows Forms. It wasn't a very rich platform. We were starting off, and we got on the device, but I've actually gotten to see it grow and been the one and only test developer on Silverlight for mobile, and it's been a blast. I've had more fun in the last few months than I've ever had at Microsoft ever, and I've worked on some really cool projects. So I'm just going to throw it back to Amit, and he's going to get you started.
He'll come back later. So this is the official title of the talk. I was told that we should display and use the official template as well for one slide, so that if you need to give feedback, give us comments, you can refer back to this title as the T12 Mobile Devices and Silverlight, a primer on the new technology. So what we are going to do here is spend the next 75 minutes or so talking about what are the exciting scenarios that Silverlight for mobile is going to enable. I'm also going to talk about what lies ahead in terms of the roadmap, where we stand in terms of our planning and making bits available to people so that you can start playing with it. David has been spending a lot of time actually testing some applications that we have been prototyping. He would come up and share some of his experiences on what you need to do if you already have a website that you have created and you want it to look nice on a mobile device, or if you're actually building a site specifically for mobile devices, what are some of the interesting takeaways for that? So he'll be sharing some of his expertise through demos and just giving some interesting guidance to you. And I think we leave sufficient time in the end to answer your questions. I'm sure you'll have lots and lots of questions around this. And we'll try and answer as many of them as we can while we are here. Otherwise, we will be at the device bar where you can come and ask questions. So this slide should not need introduction to people who have been coming to MIX or been playing around with Silverlight. We all know there have been very clear, distinct advantages of going and writing applications for the desktop, get the richness, get the power. And there have been advantages of doing the web applications where you get the reach. You can get to a very large set of audience very, very quickly. And Silverlight has been bridging this gap really, really well. We have seen over the last year and a half, so many of these very rich interactive applications have been created that you just invoke through the browser. So you're still doing the web application paradigm, but you can see the power of the UI, the presentation layer, which is also very, very important. I think customers are really starting to ask more and more from us as developers on how the application should look and feel. So the bar is definitely going up. And Silverlight, as you know about, has always had the promise of being cross-platform. It's also cross-browser, totally .NET based, so that you can reuse a lot of the skills that you have learned just by programming with the conventional .NET in the past couple of years. So we have now extended and taken this forward, the cross-platform reach to, you heard the announcement 2 days ago about supporting Silverlight for mobile, not only on Windows Mobile, but also on the Nokia platform. So you can see that we are really living up to the promise of the commitments that we had made to our developer community. So if you look at the mobile application trends, a lot of people coming from different places would have seen different expectations in terms of networks and devices. But overall, if you see, there's a very consistent paradigm here as well. You can write very powerful, rich applications that work nicely on a device, very fine-tuned to the device. And on the other side, if you want to get the reach, you'd go and start something at the WAP layer, the basic level of getting things out on a browser. And then you can start making use of HTML, make it look nicer, go browser plus Ajax, make it look even a little more better and jazzier. And all of these are trying to reduce the richness gap as much as they can. And we feel that, again, in this paradigm, Silverlight would play a very, very important role in bringing the same experiences that you have been seeing on the desktop, where applications are becoming extremely rich. We would love to see those same experiences show up for your customers on devices as well. So we'll make sure we enable you with the right set of tools and runtimes to provide those experiences to the developer community or the customers that you're actually going after. Now, if you look at what's happening in this space, again, some of these things change from where you actually come from. People, I've told, in Korea and Japan are way ahead in terms of their adoption of mobile devices for a lot of these scenarios. And I see the trend happening and growing in a lot of other emerging countries as well. A lot of very powerful devices are coming out. Even here in the US, people are starting to watch a lot of television, serials, a lot of photo uploading sites are allowing these things to happen from mobile and making them extremely tightly integrated. Mobile provides this unique value proposition that the desktop doesn't. To use an app on a desktop, you have to be at one place. You're sitting. You're not going around doing anything. But for mobile, the charm here is that you always have a context. You are somewhere. And a lot of these apps are taking advantage of the fact about your presence, where you are. Like, the app that you saw at the keynote today, the Mixer application. Right? We started that as an interesting application that we'll take forward, make it a more real application in terms of that people can start using it when they're at conferences. So when they started working on this, the idea was it's a social network, and you build that around people being at conferences and having different moods. And with the phone, you're going around from place to place. You can take pictures. You can, contact each other very easily. So you can see that, unlike the applications that are being shown on the desktop where you have to be present, with mobile application, the opportunity is a lot more broader from that perspective. Other interesting scenarios are, again, what we just classify them as data snacking scenarios. Getting access to weather information, traffic information. These are things that have become extremely common, where somebody does the aggregation, and then once it's aggregated, they would like to present it in a very, very intuitive way. So, some of the things about the WeatherBug demo this morning as well. And you can see how nicely they present the information to the user. In the last part of the demo, they showed a very interesting snow effect. So if it's cold, you look at your phone, and you can actually see the image having the snow effect. They actually have a lot more effects, like the rain effect. So you can just look at your phone, and you can see a lot of drizzle going. You know the weather you're looking at is rainy without even having to look at the data. And that's what the user experience Silverlight can enable for devices. Then on the retail side, it's another big opportunity for mobile scenarios. Somebody mentioned, I think there's a service in Japan. If somebody is there from Japan, they can correct me. But you can actually, they said, walk into a bookstore, and Amazon has a service. You key in the number, the ISBN number, and they can very quickly come back with a competitive price for you. Those are the kind of scenarios people are going after. Or the other interesting one is a project that the Microsoft research started a while ago. The Aura project, read something about this. What it allows you to do is just take pictures of labels, and then through a service, get back contextual information. And when we were talking about this, I think the first thing that came to the mind, and when Loki and I were talking about this, how cool would that be? Loki's somewhere here, he's our product manager, does some fun stuff. How cool would that be if I can walk into a wine store, look at a bottle, and take a picture of the label, sends the data back, goes to a social network of friends who actually go and drink a lot of wine, and you can get very interesting data back, a video clip, or just rating of how people actually think this particular wine is. So you can see, being in a mobile space, you can actually take the same presentation richness and extend it to some very interesting scenarios in that space as well. And social networking, whether you like it or not, whether your manager is a friend or 5 levels up or down, people are friends on Facebook, these things are here to stay. And with the mobile devices, the penetration of social networking becoming more and more. People have been photo blogging, twittering while you're moving around. You want to just know what's happening. And again, we'll see that this is a classic space where Silverlight for mobile is going to make a huge impact in terms of the kind of applications people will start building around these scenarios. So in terms of the value proposition, I think I have pretty much covered this whole thing in the last couple of slides. But just to actually just reiterate on some of these facts, we're looking at 3 important aspects here. One is triple play. So what exactly is triple play, and how does that help you as a content vendor or a developer? I think most people who are building content, like aggregating weather, for example, that's a type of content, or providing videos, are trying to get their reach across to 3 different places. One is when you're in your office, in your desktop. You can get that stuff. The other place is, okay, I am at home in my media room, and I want to actually very quickly access some information there as well. So people are going after that. And the third, and probably the biggest one, is a mobile device, because a lot of us carry them, and probably far bigger reach than the desktops have. So we want to ensure that if you are a content vendor, you have a good value proposition of writing and using Silverlight so that you can actually go address a lot of these segments fairly easily. Then for hardcore developers, I think the whole idea is that don't relearn something new every time a new technology comes out. And we're making sure that we have the same tools that you're using for building desktop applications will work exactly in the same way for building Silverlight for mobile applications. You can use Visual Studio, you can use Expression Blend, and that's how you'll be writing and creating your applications. Plus, there have been deliverables that my team actually owns in terms of, say, the device emulator, which are some of the unique things that we have been providing to mobile developers. And we ship a variety of emulator images so that if you want to just get a look and feel of how your app runs on different form factors or layouts, you can just quickly bring up these emulators up and try your applications as well. So that's making sure that developers are very comfortable jump-starting and adopting this technology. And then it's about cross-platform. Just like on the desktop, we're also committed to making sure that our technologies are completely cross-platform. We recently announced our partnership with Nokia. We are going to be supporting Windows Mobile, and in future, I'm sure there'll be people going out and looking for other platforms as well. But at this point, we only have these 2 platforms that we'll be going and working on. So let's look at the implementation of, is Silverlight for mobile any different from the desktop? Is it the same? So what we have right now is the 1.0 implementation of Silverlight. So we are making sure that there is a complete parity with the things and the sites that you have already invested in. We are following the exact same plugin model, so it will be a browser plugin model. Take a cab that installs a control inside your Pocket IE, and you're good to go to browse any site that had Silverlight 1.0 content on it. We are currently supporting Windows Mobile 6 Standard and Professional, and you'll be wondering what happened to Nokia's. And we'll be working on those as well because the announcement just happened. We'll be working on the models where how we are going to actually integrate and display some of these things. We are providing scripting support, much like what Silverlight 1.0 did, so you should not find any differences there. The only thing that we are investigating right now is how best can we take advantage of the device stack. Different devices have come up with different codexes which may have been optimized for that specific hardware. So we are trying to see, instead of having like one monolithic codec, just taking advantage of the optimized codexes that may be available locally on each of the devices. So this is one part that we are still working on. We have some implementations that we have right now, like the one that you saw in the demos, the Mixer demo today at stage. They showed a small video clip running in a small window as well as full screen. We're actually just using the power of the media player inside to render them through Silverlight. So as a developer, you should not really have to worry about, go and do the right thing in terms of bringing up the media stack for you. And let's switch gears and look at some demos. They're very simple. They're not the keynote type demos that I have. It's more of an evolution of how this product have evolved internally in the product group over the last couple of months. And the first demo that I started working on, if you can turn that on for me. Find the stylus. Okay. Is this visible to people at the back? Okay, zoom in. Okay, I think that would be good. Perfect, thanks for the tip. This is actually the first time, you won't believe it, I've been doing talks for Visual Studio for Devices teams for the last so many years. I've actually never carried a device with me on stage. Our emulator has been so good in keeping parity with everything. And I could have shown this on the emulator, but then you would have said, hey, this is not real stuff. So I'm going to make sure this is running on a device. So bear with me when I'm struggling using this a little. So let's go to the File Explorer. And in my documents, this is a little app I actually created for my daughter. She has been watching some videos. She's actually, 16 months right now. And this is an app I wrote for her. This is the elephant video she used to watch. So this elephant in the end blinks the eye, and you should see my little one actually go completely ballistic laughing. I don't know what she finds amusing, but she really likes it. What I demonstrated here was basically very simple XAML. There's absolutely not a line of script behind this. This is just through the storyboards of getting something working. So this was also kind of my first step on, okay, this thing is working. We've got pretty much parity with what we can do on the desktop. And I have a couple of other demos that I also stole from the desktop and just said, hey, let's make them work. And they work for me. Let's look at a few other things here. Let's go back to my File Explorer. And this is our classic Hello World app. You would see it everywhere. This is the clock application. You'll see that working on the desktop. I think it shipped as part of the samples as well. Again, uses a storyboard to do the clock movement, has scripting to do the initialization, and has some interesting logic here that actually helps it resize. So the same application, whether you're running it this device or a smaller smartphone, you would actually get the clock to resize and show up accurately. So this was another good example of people looking at it and say, hey, I have content that may actually be big. Will it work? Yeah, to some extent it will. And if it doesn't, David has a few tips that he will be sharing with you on how to do the right things to make it show up nicely. Then let's look at, go back to my documents. And here's another fun one. How many of you remember a game called Donkey? Played it? Okay, who won? I have not been able to beat the donkey. I've been playing this for the last couple of weeks now. So we've seen that application that was written a couple of years ago, I believe, by Bill Gates. And oops, I didn't make it. We saw the donkey.bash version, a very high-end version, and then here I have the Silverlight version. So this was completely script and XAML, bringing this little application to you. Another fun thing for people to actually play around with. And I think I have one more demo to show. How can anything be complete without showing something related to media? So let's show something media related. Here is my media demo. So here's something interesting which I did. I was just scouting around looking for an interesting demo to show. And I saw this little Channel 9 guy demo that the desktop team had created. It was actually a version 2 application. And thank you. Some sound will play, so give it some time. This was a Channel 9 video that they were actually showing. And I said, let me take their XAML and see how nicely it works. All I did was apply a scale transform. And it just fitted beautifully. I mean, literally nothing else had to change. I went ahead, took the XAML on one side, took out the managed code, replaced it with scripting. That's what we support. Few lines of code, and we had this thing up and running. Okay, I don't know. Okay, it's right here. So here's a few things it actually does. So from a little Channel 9 guy, it actually transforms into a media player. You can see that. And then I can actually click the play button, and it's going to be rendering a small little video clip for me as well. I don't know if your sound is off. So just wanted to show, I mean, we don't have to sit and watch this whole advertisement, but the whole idea is, yes, you can do very interesting stuff with the media support that we have right now. And I can stop the video and send this guy, animate him back to where he was. So these were a few small, simple, interesting demos that we put together just to showcase where things are. We are still pretty much in a pre-CTP stage. We'll have bits out in a little while. So this is work in progress, and you can see we're continuously churning out builds. And over the next few weeks, we'll have some drops available for you. So moving on from that, I would hand it off to David. And David's going to have a little bit of fun trying to show, because his machine refuses to connect to the projector.
I did something to my machine while I was doing a dry run for this presentation, and whenever it's hooked up to a switch box, it decides to not display anything. So bear with me as I try to balance it against this Wolf Vision and still type at the same time. We'll see if I can do that, or if the machine goes to the scrap bin later. Okay, so today there's a lot of Silverlight content out. I believe Scott Guthrie mentioned that we've got 1.5 million downloads a day of the desktop client. That's a lot of users. I mean, in the course of a week, we've got 4.5 million users, or well, wait, 7.5 million users. I can't even do any math today. Well, funny that. So how do you actually take that content and bring it onto the mobile devices? Well, a lot of content will just work. Amit mentioned a scale transform to allow you to resize the content dynamically to fit on the device screen. PCs have sky-high resolutions. I run it 19 by something on a widescreen panel at work. That content will definitely not fit on one of these guys without some amount of work. Either I get scroll bars and I'm scrolling these huge things and only looking at a small window at a time, or I need to shrink it down. For simple content with fairly coarse controls, this is a great way to get your content on the device. It's important, as I mentioned, the media stack, to use encodings that are supported by the device. We do not install any codecs with Silverlight for mobile. We use what's on the device today. And in talking about content files, when you deal with encoded files, things can get rather large. This is audio or video. Devices have limited resources, be they processor speed or RAM or physical storage. You don't have as much space as the PC. For years, I've always said that PCs are essentially infinite storage, infinite resources compared to what you can carry in your pocket. Devices are getting faster and more powerful, but they still will lag behind the PCs. So try to avoid large content files and put the device under undue memory pressure. And I clicked the wrong direction. Okay, so we mentioned the limited resources. CPU speed, they're plenty fast processors, but they're not pipelined or optimized the same way as a desktop processor will. Although the phone up here is a lot more powerful than what I helped work on Windows 95 for. I never thought then that that big giant box would turn into something I could stick in my hip pocket, but it really happened. So the desktops you have today, the laptops you have today will eventually be in your pocket as well. But for now, be mindful of the size of your scaled objects. Things will eventually move to invisibility or near invisibility. And network connectivity, while it's improving, you do occasionally get in the elevator. I mean, how many times have you been talking to your friend on the phone and you happen to hit floor 22 and you lose your connection? That same thing can happen with data transfer as well. So let's see how good I am at balancing. Unlike Scott Guthrie, I don't think I have a future in Cirque du Soleil, but we'll give this a try anyway. Okay, if we can see my other furry friend. Can anybody see this at all? Let's turn off the light.
I'm doing this. Yes.
And let's see. Hey, we've got something. The only catch is I can't see. So I've got a Windows Mobile emulator here. And what button am I pushing? There's the one we want. Okay, I don't know if anyone can see this. I know I cannot. Feel free to catch me after the device bar. What I've got here is a simple application that is saying hello to MIX. In fact, we're going to give up on this, and I'm just going to explain my demos. The font, when I designed this for 1024 by 768, was about this big. When it shows up on a 1172 by 200 and something smartphone, it's about this big, and I can't read it. So the important point here is to actually design your content for the screen real estate. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And so if you were to try to touch that at all, you wouldn't be able to even activate it because you've got maybe 1 or 2 pixels wide, and I'm not very good with these styluses, and I'm definitely not that accurate with my fingertip. So you need to be sure that you're providing the best user experience. Developers don't have to worry in this particular world. You're not adapting your application from code. You get the designers to do their work, and if you could see my demos, you'd realize I should never do user interfaces, ever. I'm absolutely terrible at making attractive user interfaces. However, the designers can be paid to do what they do best. They design a nice UI for a smartphone, a nice UI for a PDA, and a nice UI for the desktop PC, and allow the developer to just call into those tags within the XAML and just call into the code. You can start with a simple prototype and eventually evolve into a much nicer looking UI. Now, to test your scaling, my recommendation is to side-by-side the emulator with Internet Explorer or Opera or your favorite browser that runs Silverlight and resize the window. You can simulate a vast number of device screen sizes just by resizing IE and hitting F5 to refresh. And if you have trouble seeing it on that screen, you know it's going to be trouble when it's in your palm. So I alluded to this already, and it's going to sound redundant and repetitious, but it is very important. Provide your users the best possible experience by having your designers provide a custom XAML for every form factor that you care about. Rather than having the application hope that they're moving controls around the screen in the best way, just download a different piece of XAML when they connect with a different size. If you're 320 by 320, give them the square screen. If they're 640 by 480, give them the landscape screen. When the internet browser goes and connects, it will tell the server what my dimensions are and what browser I'm using, so it can automatically download the right thing. The same thing is true with content files. Make sure you size them appropriate for the device. You can think, yeah, that's wonderful, let's just compress it down. However, when you load a compressed file, you do have to uncompress it. And so not only are you dealing with, I really don't need 2,000 by 2,000 pixel image, you're now using a lot more memory than you really need to. Size it down so that it looks good, but that it fits the screen. And how many users are actually smartphone users versus PDA users? Okay, can you touch your screen? I can. Does it do anything? No. So you have to make sure that you support both touch and non-touch input. Some devices will have a touch screen and a keypad, and you might be a lot more efficient using T9 or with the Action D-pad. So designing that code in, please, again, due to some technical difficulties with the laptop, please see me at the device bar this afternoon or any time during the conference, and I'll actually show you the code on how to do this. And I will blog it starting tonight now that we've made this announcement public. And again, I can't say it enough, resources are limited. This is most important to screen size and RAM. And not all devices will have hardware acceleration, so you may see the animations feel a little bit less smooth, depending on the device you're using. And many browsers are single instance or single page. So running multiple Silverlight applications is not possible. You're stopping one to start another. You can't just have multiple tabs in many of the browsers we support today. And not all of these browsers will inform you of the orientation change when you resize your screen, like pulling out one of the HTC devices has a slide-out keyboard, and that actually changes the orientation. I don't think that's a problem, though. If I were a designer, which anyone who's seen my applications knows I'm not, I don't want the developer touching my layout. I don't want the developer changing my design. So if you want landscape and they're in portrait mode, put a scroll bar. That's perfectly acceptable. The user can change the orientation of their phone to get the widescreen view. You see that all the time with the Zunes. If you've played with the Zune devices, when you go into picture viewer mode, you actually need to rotate it so you can see the picture in a better aspect ratio. And Amit mentioned media playback. Today we're using the media player logic, which is different from the desktop. The desktop has a very rich stack where you can alpha blend on top of things. We don't currently have that. There is ongoing work, of course, but today it is actually using the media player control. But I can show you this demo here. Finally, I get to may have something that works. Let me see. Did we lose? I think it shut itself off. OK, here's Amit's happy little Channel 9 guy. And last year, before coming down to MEDC,
It's not showing up.
it's not showing up? OK, we'll turn the light back on. Are we seeing anything now? There we go. I got myself a new digital camera, and I had a lot of fun taking pictures.
It's not showing up.
Well, we'll make it show up. Just hang on. And I kind of went to town on that, and I decided that I thought I would share a few of the pictures here by just writing a simple little Silverlight application that showed my picture collection. Okay, are we seeing? Okay, you can see that. It's a little bit on the dark side. Maybe if we turn the light off, it's easier to see. So, in honor of the IE8 team, I'll pick button 8, and this is one of my favorite places on the planet. This is the University of Washington. If you could actually see through that water, you would be seeing Mount Rainier, which this is one of the very first pictures I took from the plane coming down last May. If you ever get a chance to come out to Seattle, Scott loves the mountain. I love the mountain. I believe Amit loves the mountain. And of course, we've got where we are. So this is the Venetian from about mid or early May last year. I was having way too much fun, like I said, and I also wanted to just randomly pick pictures so you knew this was a real application. I didn't just hard code one animation. All these animations are done in the XAML. This was designed in Expression Blend, the December preview, and it was designed for desktop, 640 by 480, but since we had a high-res device, it just fits perfectly. It will scale to the smaller devices, and the animations are done in XAML, but they're triggered by JScript code. Anyone interested, I can make that available as well after the show. Thank you. Amit, go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. So I think the next question that everybody else has is, when can I play with the bits? You know, that's something you all want to try. I know you want to get your hands on them. We are very, very close. Within a couple of weeks, I would say, we will be making sure that the bits are available. And the site to look for would be silverlight.net. We'll have the announcements coming out there. You'll start seeing our blogs and more information like these demos and samples that we'll pre-publish to help people jumpstart on this effort. We're also making sure that we can get the bits retailed, RTW'd by the end of the year. And at the same time, also accelerate our plans for getting Silverlight 2 to mobile. I know that's something that a lot of people have been asking us already since I spoke to a few people this afternoon at the booth. We're making sure that you'll get the managed code support and the power of getting .NET and Silverlight together down to mobile. But that's looking like end of this year, we'll have some early bits out and then trying to get as close as finish up the gap that we have with the desktop. So by mid of next year, getting out the full 2.0 parity to all the mobile devices as well. And we'll keep Silverlight.net as one place where you can go and look for this information as well. A couple of things that you should do. Me and members of my team, some of them are here. You should come definitely talk to us about scenarios that you have. A couple of people I talked to while I actually walked in for this talk. Love to engage with more people. There are two interesting sessions that are happening tomorrow. One is the panel discussion. That was actually listed in the session schedule, so you may have already blocked your time for that. And the other is actually a very interesting talk. Actually, Giorgio is sitting right here watching my presentation right now. He's done some very fascinating user interfaces using Silverlight 1.0. And I was very impressed. I stumbled upon a demo, a video that he had recorded of the work that he had done. And I thought this kind of knowledge is worth sharing with a lot of developers, designers, very quickly wanting to understand what kind of fascinating UI can people build.
Were both of those at the same time?
Yes, because we were blacklisted for a long time, we could not get a closure on a lot of these things. But the first one would be more of the roadmap type of a discussion. His talk is very hands-on. He'll show you a lot of stuff, how he's coded it, what he's coded. So depending on what is of interest to you, you can see them. The good thing is that all our talks are available within 24 hours. So if you want to ask a lot of questions, you may want to go to the panel discussion where there's actually no presentation. You can sit and listen to other people's questions and their answers. Or you can actually enjoy the rich experiences that Giorgio will be showing tomorrow. So make a pick. The other one you can actually go back and always see on video within 24 hours. So that should not be a problem. We are also going to be jump-starting the Silverlight mobile tap program. We want to get to people who are interested in building experiences for devices. So all you have to do is get in touch with me either while I'm here. Happy to be hanging around at the device bar. Come see me there, or just drop me a note and let me know what your interests are, and then we can start working together on that. Primarily, I wanted to leave a lot more time open for questions. At this point, I try to answer as many as I can, thinking based on the things I heard from people. But please feel free, go ahead and ask questions at this point.
If there's mics in the hall, we'll try to, if we can hear you, we'll repeat the question. Yeah, right here. So are you thinking like what Scott showed in the keynote today or was talking about data support?
When there was data cache, we can have data cache capability in
Actually, the data cache is something we're investigating for the future. Silverlight 1.0 is more you fetch it off the internet as you need it.
So I would be doing web services and just essentially getting it and potentially visualizing that data back down and bring that back.
Yes, if you can do that from JavaScript, then that's how you would need to do it.
Yeah, that's what the Mixer app was doing. It's pretty much connected to the network. It downloads using the Ajax libraries. In fact, they were actually demonstrating a lot of their code. I think at 12:30 this afternoon, they may actually have another slot. Should go talk to them. They are using exactly the same bits that we'll be giving out for the first CTP. So they were using the real stuff, and you can build the same kind of experiences within the next couple of weeks.
I think, oh, sorry.
I don't know at what point we'll share the code, but yes, we want to actually publish that as a sample and a sample application. I don't think that has been decided what time we'll be publishing that. Yeah.
Okay. And up here was next, I think.
I think the Nokia announcement is really great. How committed are you guys to making sure that, or, I mean, is it a goal of yours to make it so you can write a Silverlight app that runs on every mobile?
Yes, yes.
Are you looking at,
Yeah, I'll repeat the question.
are you looking at iPhones? Are you looking at like Blackberries, things like that?
We're always looking to expand our platforms. The question is about, with the Nokia announcement, is our goal to make it you write one Silverlight application that runs on all devices, and that's definitely a yes. You may have to do things like, if the Nokia form factor is different from the Windows Mobile one, you'll want to make sure that that gets communicated out to your server so it can deliver the appropriate XAML. Or you may have scaling, but yes, we do, just like on the desktop where the same application runs on a Mac, we want to have that as well with mobile devices. I'm sorry. Can we get the mics on in the hall? Thanks.
I'll just speak up. With Nokia, was the port done by Microsoft or was it done by Nokia? And what kind of partnerships are you looking for going forward to get other handset manufacturers online?
So at this point, we've just basically made we made an announcement about this partnership. A lot of the division of work has to still be worked out. So at this point, I would not say there's been any work that has been done. There's some early prototypes that we have been trying out, which you also saw during the keynote, but that does not actually exactly define how the work will happen in the future. I think those things are still being worked out. Yeah. And from an end user perspective, I would say it should not really impact any of you. At the end, we are hoping that we'll give you and make sure that Silverlight works across Windows Mobile as well as Nokia, whether I end up doing the work or Nokia ends up, writing the code or however that works, you'll get the advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two questions. One, a follow-up for the Nokia. Roughly when would a beta version be available to run on the Nokia? And then the second question is, what's kind of the optimal development environment for the Silverlight for Mobile 1.0 now? Is it we should use Visual Studio 2008? Which version of, for instance, Blend should we be using?
I would start with the, I believe it's now the Blend 2.5.
Okay, I'll take that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the day the bits will be available, if you have seen the silverlight.learn site, which actually provides you very prescriptive guidance on pick this tool, pick this build, will provide information exactly in the same way. So the Blend tool has been churning out. They had the March preview and they have a beta that just went out. We'll make sure that everything that it is generating works perfectly for your scenario. If not, we'll be just exactly documenting which version of the tool you need, what you need to download. And my take is it's not going to be any different than what's out there. So we just have to test it before we publish it.
The Nokia, when
It's hard for me to say right now. I'll be honest. It hasn't. All that thing has not been worked out.
Right. In the case of Windows Mobile, however, I designed in Blend. If I wanted to work on the JScript, I right-clicked, said Open in Visual Studio, did my work, deployed to the desktop for debugging, and then deployed to the device.
and you're using VS 2008?
I was using VS 2008. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When will we see some support for device-specific things like cameras and GPS? Sort of add-on.
So you could actually technically, I would say you can do that today. Yeah, so I think the question here was, when would you see the integration with device assets such as camera and GPS? A great question, I think, because that's what all mobile developers are probably wondering, how do I hook into a camera? So there are a few things you can actually do today, and not with Silverlight itself, right? Silverlight is not going to expose anything that gets you take a picture. I won't have a function take picture, hopefully, maybe, but today we don't have that. What you could do is, there are a number of ActiveX controls, that are available for getting GPS, like for media control, for camera access. And if you have them on the same page as your Silverlight control, you can actually pass information back and forth fairly conveniently. It's like talking to any other, object that Internet Explorer can understand. So that's feasible today. Once we move on to version 2, version 2 will give us access to managed code. And while it's very early, to say how the architecture would look like, that could be one of the things that get exposed through the, say, Windows Mobile, at least I know, has the APIs, the managed APIs to get your camera, to mail, and contact. That may be one way of getting to that. But at this point with 1.0, you will have to depend on an external control. For the next release, this is something we are very seriously thinking on how best to give you the right experiences there. That was actually a good question, really.
And we've got one in the hall.
My question is, does Silverlight for mobile support these variable streaming capabilities? As we were showing, that automatically identifies the hardware capabilities to stream, what speed and all that.
No.
And that's it's a Silverlight 2 feature.
Yeah.
And at this point, we're Silverlight 1.
Okay. So when the Silverlight 2.0 for mobile then?
You'll have to give 1 some time. Let's ship 1. Let's get to 1. Let's take the first step. We'll get to 2 as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
You mentioned that for the Windows mobile devices, you don't use all of the codecs that Silverlight has. You use what's on there. Is that going to be a concern as you move to other platforms? Like if Nokia doesn't have the same codecs and things, that you'll have to encode things for each device?
Right. A question about encodings. We don't install the same encoding or the codecs that Silverlight for desktop does, mostly to keep the size down, of course. Roaming on the field, you really don't want to download this enormous blob of binary just to play one video, especially if you don't need that codec. I'm not sure what the current plan is, but I believe you may need to have different data for each device. That may change, though. I mean, just right now, it would be if you're targeting for Silverlight for desktop or the Mac, you could use, I think it's VC1. But if you were going to go to Windows Mobile, you'd want a WMV file. And similarly to when you detect what platform you're on and you get a different XAML, you would just fetch different content files.
Yeah, this is a problem we have been struggling a lot. We are trying our best to reduce, what the content provider has to think through in terms of all these scenarios. But at some point, you run into these technical roadblocks where you say, there are codexes that are optimized for a device, and you'll probably get the best performance using them. And then, the ownership comes back. And we could do a couple of things from our side by, at least providing some aspects in our tools which could help you generate the media and say, okay, if you're going to target Windows Mobile, here's a push button, and it'll actually make sure all your media is taken care of. There could be a few things that we could look at. And given the fact this is pre-CTP at this point, we'll keep churning on that fact. We understand the concern people have there, but we are dealing with limitations of very diverse devices here, and we'll try and get to the optimum solution that gives you the right performance. And if I ship a codex and say, hey, use this, the first problem you will tell me is, hey, it doesn't look good on this device, doesn't look good on this device, there's another optimized codex that's available there. Why shouldn't I actually take advantage of that? So it's a classic problem we'll try and balance out through using tools and guidance and maybe some work that people might have to do on the back end to optimize media as well. Yes.
Just to clarify,
Okay.
this first release supports video streaming, right? Fixed bit rate, but it does.
So we are right now dependent on the media control. So the implementation that we have, the first set of bits that you'll give out. I have not personally tested the scenario. When I was talking to the developer working on that, he said, yes, we will be able to hook up a stream through the media control. That should not be a problem. I don't know if it'll end up that way or we'll ship something different. So stay tuned on the media aspect. We'll keep giving some updates on that. And we understand streaming is an important scenario.
Yeah.
Two questions.
If-
First one, how big is this plugin going to be in terms of size? The second part would be, I guess, since it's vector-based code, I guess there's not going to be a GPU in these mobile devices. In terms of performance issues, is there any guidance as far as how it's going to work and such?
So size-wise first, what is our
Size
current footprint?
is roughly a meg right now. And I don't think any optimized...
Size of our install.
the cab that we have right now that we have been using is roughly a meg, 1 meg. Yeah.
Yes. And I didn't quite catch all of the second question.
Part is, I know most of the new WPF-based, I guess, rendering is built on is vector-based, so it is built for using the GPU, the hardware acceleration,
Right.
hardware acceleration capability. With the mobile device, obviously, you have just one CPU. Is there any guidance as far as how you would write your app to make it perform
Okay.
reliably?
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Repeat the
Summary of the
question,
question is performance with XAML rendering. Without a GPU. Okay. Guidance on that. Well, if it's an extremely complicated transform, it's going to be slower, obviously. So, and the other question becomes, how necessary is that in a smaller form factor? Take a look at what you're meaning to deliver to your customers and what conveys the information in the best way given the real estate that you have. What you would convey on a 1280 by 1024 screen may not be what you would show on a 640 by 480 or then on the 176 by 220 something.
220.
I mean, so as it gets smaller, you have to take a lot more care in crafting what you're showing to get it down to, I don't want to really say the bare necessities, but just what does really convey your message in the nicest possible way that your customer understands given the form factor they have.
Yeah, and there are other things that we're also looking at in terms of just optimizing Silverlight code to be more performant on, say, an ARM-based processor. So there's work that we are doing at our end to actually take every bit of performance that we can from the device, knowing what the limitations are. And as David mentioned, if you don't have to do it, then don't do it. Don't use the thing that just because I can animate, try and animate every little thing that you have to. Just look at the real estate, look at the experience, and draw the balance between that. But performance is something we'll also continue to improve. Right? I think every couple of months, as we throw out the builds, I think one of the goals would be to, look at the performance and see how we can make that better and better.
I think we had something over here too. Yeah. Windows Mobile 5. The plan right now is not to support it. That's largely due to limitations of the browser built into Windows Mobile 5. The browsers really are pain point as far as, does it expose the full JavaScript library? Can we get access to the page DOM and that type of thing? And the older we go back, the more work we have to do and the more workarounds we have to put in, and the longer it's going to take to ship, and the fewer features we can actually get out to the richer browsers on the richer platforms.
There's one more question.
Yeah. Yes.
What about for devices that might have integrated graphic chips and some of the HTC devices?
Integrated graphic chip support, I have been in meetings where we've talked about if we have hardware acceleration to use it. I don't know any more than that, though. But if you come grab my card, I can forward it on to the right person.
Okay. One question, let him on. Yeah.
Show a couple of slides, one on triple play or triple track.
Yeah.
Along with ABC, looked like a mock-up of some streaming news with a little throw-up. What are the plans for Silverlight mobile or even on the desktop version as a video client?
The question is a media center client?
Media room.
A media room. Okay, so in the living room, the 12-foot distance kind of thing, or?
As in Microsoft Apple TV media room.
Oh, okay.
Clients now where you have set-top boxes.
Right.
Xbox 360 is also going to set-top box. It would be good from a telco perspective to be able to show the content that was already encoded.
Right.
Showing that the TV channel to also be able to offer our customers that to stream
Right.
mobile device.
So question is Silverlight on TV.
Our team doesn't own that, so I don't have more specifics than that. But yes, given the fact that we've been talking about this thing, there may be talks happening between the Silverlight teams and teams that own those assets within the company.
Right. Definitely send your feedback our way.
It would make a lot of sense because you're already encrypting content.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I know AT&T is already offering a subset of channels on your browser, so it's really interesting.
Right. So if anyone has feedback or questions about the on a TV, come get our card, send us your input, and we'll get it to the right people. We're just not the right people to answer that one thoroughly. Yeah, and then we'll come here.
Is the Windows Mobile a subset of Silverlight, either 1.0 or 2.0, other than, of course, you mentioned the media codecs. Other than the media codecs, is there anything that's in the full version of Silverlight that's not in the mobile versions?
The question is, what has been left out, like the compact framework style, what have we left out? Today, there's a few features that we just haven't gotten tested and built right now, but it is exactly the same code. So the Silverlight you run on the desktop and the Silverlight you run in your pocket is the same code. Unlike the .NET Compact framework where you had pieces that were completely rewritten and pieces that were just a snapshot of the source, this is the source.
So the difference between your 1 meg and the larger download for Silverlight is mainly the codecs?
Right, right. And there was a question here?
Yeah, I wondered about writing DRM support. Is that in the version 2?
DRM support, I'm not.
At least not in version 1. We talked about that internally as well. Not in version 1. In version 2, definitely we'll be looking at, hooking up the right things for the DRM market. Yeah.
There's a one back here.
Yeah, is the plan to always keep it as a web-based distributed, like an online app, or is there a potential that it would become a runtime for development of like an actual device app?
Okay, so the question is, are we always online only, or are we eventually going to support offline? Amit, I think I'll let you take that.
Yes, so for version 1, it's just going to be the web. Version 2, we will definitely do the web thing. And we're also trying to understand based on, this is not the first time we've heard it, the ability to just run these apps standalone. But then we are getting into the WPF scenarios. Really, that's what, that is. It's not truly Silverlight. It's about, bringing the web experiences down. But given, the number of asks that we have got, this is one of the things we also have on our design board, things to go figure out if it's feasible or not. But we'll stick to the web model for now.
Yeah, right in the middle.
I got a question.
I think we've got a ringer here.
I saw some of these cool Windows mobile berets. They're really cool. I saw a guy over here with one over here. And you know what? This gentleman right here just won a brand new Windows mobile device. You guys have got to get your berets. Go on back to the sandbox. We've got a lot of questions. Come see us back in the open sandbox area. We're going to get your information. He just won a brand new Windows mobile device. Grab your berets, wear them around. We got several. We're giving away all through the week. Congratulations, gentlemen, right
Excellent.
here.
Thank you. And they come in 3 colors, too. Any more questions other than our giveaway? I'm having a hard time. Here's one. The Media Center edition, that's something that we're going to have to go investigate. I have not heard definitive plans yet, but send us your feedback and we'll get it to the right people. All the way in the back.
How about Silverlight for
Silverlight
Zoom?
for Zune. Oh,
That's a device that needs more features.
Yeah. I don't have any information on any future plans for that, but if you would like to see it done, send me the information and I'll try to funnel it to the decision makers.
Why is he smiling when that question comes?
Because I've been hearing that from so many people.
Nothing you want to tell us?
No, I have nothing to hide, actually. So.
Yeah, that's the first time I've actually heard that, so this is the best answer I can give is send your feedback.
Yeah, I was pretty sure the answer would be 0 since the device has no access to the internet. But it was still worth asking because otherwise nobody knows that anybody wants it.
Right, so yeah, if anyone has any feature requests or platform requests, we're more than happy to field them. We can make no promises, but we can get it to the right people.